Hey all, I'm Elysia Buss, host of Horsepower Empowerment Through Connection. And today I have the great pleasure and privilege of getting to interview Janet Weisberg, located in Greenfield, Minnesota, as we used to say when I was a kid, in regards to Minnesota. And she is at Hold Your Horses. And this is a really fantastic facility. It's located, it's beautiful. Is it 65 acres out there? Am I remembering that correctly?
69.
16. Oh, I was so close. I was so close. It's not too bad, but it's been a minute. So they provide occupational therapy out there and mental health services, both physically present there and with telehealth. Although she was saying there's 20% telehealth and about 80% in person. We're going to talk more about her story and the different populations they serve and just so much more. It's a beautiful story of resilience. So Janet, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate you.
You're welcome. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. So Janet, let's just start from the beginning. In the beginning.
Oh, is that my lead-in? Okay.
Yeah, that's your lead-in, yes.
Right.
Once upon a time, in a land far, far away.
Right. Yeah, well, in the beginning, Hold Your Horses started with a handful of OT clients at a small farm in Maple Plain, Minnesota that was owned by one of the families that had a child on my caseload when I worked in another setting. And they gave me the opportunity to open a practice there. And from there, we grew to bring in mental health services. We moved a few times. We dealt with a lot of interesting challenges. And today, starting our 15th year, we have our own 69-acre farm, 7 horses, and we see clients 5 and sometimes 6 days a week for both occupational therapy and mental health services. And we also, pre-COVID, provided some group educational opportunities.
Excellent. In the future, after COVID's done, you're looking at doing retreats, isn't that right?
You bet. You bet. We always have a mind for offering restorative opportunities here at the farm and for helping people to self-regulate and restore so that they can do what they need to do day in and day out, whether they're in a service profession or whether they're a parent of a child with special needs or whether they're somebody just trying to get through daily life.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for providing that for your community. It really is a gorgeous place, ladies and gentlemen. We'd have her go outside, but it's a little windy there today, and we wouldn't want you to be distracted from the beautiful message she'll be giving. So you talked a little bit about your journey and that there was something that happened during the start of Hold Your Horses that folds into what you do today.
Right. Well, going back even a little bit further than before we opened our doors, I first found out about professionals working with horses in a therapy setting when I lived in New York City. And while playing hooky from work one day, I went to the old Claremont Riding Academy. Some of you may remember that. It's no longer there. But I witnessed a class going on where they had children with disabilities and they were putting them on horses and helping to move their brains and bodies. And I was very moved by that. And at the time, I was very much in my own and stress over a poor job fit working in New York City. And seeing this, I had kind of an epiphany about change and about pursuing another career path. And I had always been involved with horses during my life. And to see the impact they had on people with disabilities in that setting, I was pretty blown away. So I, from that point on, did everything I could to move forward to where I am today and where we are today with this organization. And it really is a story of, momentum based on constant change, and through all that, resilience, which has helped us to clarify and stay focused on our mission and to still be around today.
That's really excellent. Speaking of change, Janet, can you Try and put your phone somewhere so it's not quite so shaky.
Oh, I could try that. Yeah.
Maybe it can be stuck in one of the hay bales. Set it on something.
Okay. All right. Working on it. Yep. Okay. We're climbing up into the.
Ooh, we're having an adventure, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay. Here we are up in the. We're way up in top of the hay barn.
Oh, that's so much better. Thank you.
Okay.
I
Thank you.
don't want people to get distracted by the shakiness. I didn't want us to lose anybody. It's so
Right.
fun
We don't
to
want anyone to have a
climb on hay
seizure
bales.
either.
Huh?
I don't want anyone to have a seizure
No,
either.
no seizures. That would be terrible. Let's not do that. If anyone has not yet had the experience in their life to climb up on a bale of hay, like a bunch of bales of hay in a hay barn, this is something that I deeply believe that you should find a way to go do, because it is so much fun and there's nothing else in the world that's quite like it. And the fantastic smell of hay. It's just so good.
Yes. The farm is rich with sensory opportunities, and we find them abundant for our clients of all abilities, but very often, especially the young teenagers we see, there's not a session that doesn't include time for them climbing up here, usually in search of one of the barn cats who often snooze in this location here.
That's super cute. So for people that don't actually know what occupational therapy involves, can you break that down for them really quick before we go further into our interview?
Yes. So occupational therapy is probably one of the most difficult to understand professions. And, you know, you combine that with hippotherapy, which is something else I do. And I'm really at a loss at cocktail parties. So spend a lot of time trying to explain the unexplainable. But occupational therapy really has to do with helping people who have faced illness or trauma or physical disability that impairs their ability to participate in their daily occupations. And we define them as self-care occupations, as work-related occupations. For children, it's play, because their play is work, as well as their leisure or social pursuits. So when we're providing a clinical service, we are really looking very holistically at that person's life and how it has been impacted by the impairment of their disability or illness or trauma. And how do we use our training to help them with meaningful, purposeful activities that help them get back into their daily lives in a more functional way.
Fantastic. Can you give an example of some of the work you would do with horses?
Yes, well, horses, as I said, they provide, the environment of the horse provides a very rich sensory environment, an environment that's full of very purposeful, meaningful activities that are in the context of caring for horses and interacting with horses, as well as the horse provides incredible movement, which is where the hippotherapy treatment strategy comes in, where while sitting on the horse, an individual can experience three-dimensional movement in their brains, in their bodies, in order to, again, create an opportunity to learn skills for a functional outcome.
Fantastic. So would you have them like reaching forward and back and to the side, or walking through like leading a horse through an obstacle course, or is it just riding?
All of the above. We don't use the term riding very often. Riding is wonderful and recreational, but it implies kind of a different activity. When in hippotherapy, when a client is on the horse, they're actually a little more passive to the movement of the horse, or passive in directing the horse, because we have a horse handler or someone who's long lining the horse, so that the individual on the horse can work on postural stability, can work on finding their midline, can work on posture, can work on breathing, diaphragmatic work, so that they can be more easily understood in their vocalization. A small child might go through developmental positioning on seating, on their tummy, on hands and knees, coming up through the developmental position sequence that will help them get stronger for their mobility. In the mental health sessions, absolutely, we're doing a lot more groundwork, obstacle courses, yes, working on communication, on reading nonverbal signs with the horse, setting boundaries, and most importantly, whether it's OT or mental health, we're always working on self-regulation. Because as we know, in interacting with the horse, horses are very sensitive to energy and movement.
Yeah.
Much like you are, as I'm moving around on this hay bale, making people nervous.
Is she gonna fall off? Is it okay?
We get, right, the horse gives very rapid feedback to the energy we bring towards them or around them. And so lots and lots of learning opportunities. And I will do groundwork in my OT sessions as well with clients who are able to do that.
So
but
for some
in
people,
OT,
sorry for interrupting. So, but for the people that are listening that don't know what groundwork or long lining is, could you briefly just describe that to them?
You bet. Long lining kind of looks like long ropes where you're driving a horse forward from behind. You're not sitting on the horse, you're not leading the horse, but a horse handler is actually behind them like they would drive a horse with a wagon or cart or something like that. But the person doing the long lining is walking behind the horse and encouraging the horse to go forward. And it's often used in the hippotherapy sessions because whoever is seated on the horse then is only seeing exactly what's in front of them, which is the horse's head and the world that they're going into, the area that they're walking into, versus, you know, looking at a horse leader in front of them, which is wonderful. And for some clients can be very distracting. And groundwork, as opposed to mounted work, encompasses all the wonderful context-related activities with the horse, whether it be grooming or leading or bringing horses feed, or these sort of manufactured groundwork activities like obstacle courses or presenting horses with challenges and trying to get the horse to participate in an activity with them.
Do you think that the horses get something out of the engagements with the people that they work with?
You bet. You bet. And we have a barn full of professionals here. And we've had many horses come and go over the years that don't really find the job, find goodness of fit in the job. But the ones who are here are pretty incredible. And they never cease to amaze me or the other clinicians or any of our other team members here on a daily basis in what they have to offer and what they can teach us. They are, of course, animals. They are prone to fight or flight. So the fact that they trust us and engage in this work has to mean that they understand it on whatever horsey brain level you want to meet them at, right? Because otherwise, with a fight or flight response, most of the things we do would make some sort of typical horses turn tail and run.
Yeah.
So we respect them as horses. We do activities that are respectful of them, but they do really seem to enjoy engaging in these sessions.
That's
and we keep a variety of work for each horse. And every horse has a regular conditioning schedule. Every horse has, regular people that engage with them, to keep them sort of on the straight and narrow, make sure that we have a wonderful barn manager here and a team that makes sure the horses get good quality feed and that they are turned out every day and their health concerns are looked after. We have an aging herd, so of course everybody's got a condition. This one's got this supplement and that supplement. This one has these special shoes and this and that. And we really go above and beyond in their care. But that is critical because without them, I would be working in a school or a hospital or another setting. So they are our equipment per se, but they're also living, breathing entities that are employees that require food, shelter, health care, all of it.
Yeah, speaking of all that, what kind of a hit has your business taken with COVID?
I would say we probably, without what happened to us this winter pre-COVID, we would have been closing our doors. But what happened this winter is we had a very beautiful donor gift that came in at an amount that we hadn't seen since we opened our doors. And this was a very beautiful gift, and because of it, we were able to spend time, of course, generating more funds for the transition to telehealth. We were able to keep our doors open, feed our horses, and continue to serve clients, but at a reduced capacity. And it's allowing us to build back up again so that our revenue streams are back to where they need to be for sustainability. Recognizing that we're going into a year that will be more challenging, understandably, for fundraising. But I will say that there are funds available that are COVID related. It just means a little more research and grant writing and desk time, less time on the hay bale for me.
Well, thank you so much for giving us some time today and sharing part of your story. I really appreciate it. So what would you say are some of your personal struggles, like obstacles that you've overcome to be able to live your dream in creating Hold Your Horses?
Well, I think my biggest struggle is that I'm a pretty reluctant executive director. When I started this, I really wanted to do the clinical work. I saw the benefit of helping move lives forward through partnering with the horse. And I had never intended to start a nonprofit organization, but here we are. The struggles, my biggest struggles have been internal, and struggling with things that, we help clients to overcome. So it's kind of a, heal thyself scenario as we go forward in life, because our own barriers and the things that we struggle with, really can impede our day-to-day as we lead an organization. I should say, as I lead an organization, as I manage employees, as I try to work with a board on strategic planning, as I try to bring in other people that will help with succession planning. These are all very concrete challenges. And what I have learned about myself has been phenomenal. Much of it not pretty, and some of it really a difficult struggle. And I really have the horses and my husband, but I think I have the horses to thank for that, because what I have learned, and for that matter, what I see some of our other team members learning day to day in their interactions in this setting, that then can be applied to moving forward with their own personal goals, is pretty phenomenal. And with myself, with our clients, horses really have an excellent bullshit detector, and they,
yes, they do.
don't they? They like authenticity. And For example, when we have one of our teenagers come in here, it says, I'm not scared, you know, but their body language is this, or they're shaking, or their jaw is set. And the horses are like, whoa, and they'll take some steps back, because they know exactly what's going on with that individual, and they can help that individual see their truth.
Yeah.
Similarly, I have learned things in working with the horses, and when you're mindful, when you can observe, you say, oh, I have something to learn here from this. And I think because it's such a dynamic setting, the work is dynamic, horses are dynamic, farm life is dynamic, you're constantly learning, and it is exhausting. And so I think that breeds the need for restoration and recognition of people need rest, people need time to process, people need space to cope. And so that they can self-regulate and manage their emotions. Two big words: react and respond. That's been my biggest learning in the last 15, really 25 years that I've been doing this work. Reactivity is very emotionally driven. It's that fight or flight response in animals, sometimes in people. It is my own fight or flight response driven by big emotion. And that kind of reactivity is not good for resilience and for sustainability. It's not that emotions are not important. Our emotions are incredibly important, and they give us so much information about how to do things and how to feel and what we're feeling. We have to take those emotions into account. However, not so good for them to drive your first reaction or to drive your decision making. You use it, you feel those emotions, and I have learned over the years to sort of look at them, say, and set them aside, and then build my response. And the best way to do that always is to take a breath. And again, that's what we teach our clients, my little ones, my big ones, old, young, cognitive or not. Sometimes, and I've learned this from the psychologist, Molly DePreckle, that works with us. She'll make this shape with her hand. If you see my thumb coming across here, this is your limbic system here, right?
Yeah.
Your emotional brain. And when you're angry, scared, anxious, fearful, you name the emotion, your limbic system is exposed. And when you take a breath, you bring your frontal lobe online. You bring your frontal lobe down to protect that limbic system from driving your decision making. And we teach this with this visual because it helps kids to understand the beginnings of self-regulation, of a management of their emotions. And again, emotions are important, but they just can't drive every decision you make. And from being a horse person, when you ride, this is the first thing you learn. If you get pissed off at a horse, if you have a big emotional feeling about something that's going on, it may not end well. So if you want the horse to engage, you have to let them know that you're calm, that you're a wise leader, that you're in your wise mind, and then they will partner with you. And they'll partner with you if you go into fight or flight too. But again,
it's a different kind of partnership. But
right.
Also when you're calm, you're able to have cleaner communication with other human beings and with the horse. And that, I feel like that always creates a better result.
Correct.
So, yeah, more oxygen to the brain, but not like hyper, so.
Right. We're not, right.
all about being grounded and calm. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that. It's life is always such a journey. I really appreciate people who are able to be transparent and vulnerable and just like humble about the experience. Like, yep, like here we are. We've all had our moments, and everybody struggles with something to one degree or another. And
You
that's why
bet.
it's so important to hold that grace and an open mind and an open heart and treat people with compassion
Right.
as human
Right.
beings.
Because you just never know what people are going through. And,
You never
you know,
do.
we have the 4 agreements up on our wall, and we all practice to make no assumptions.
That's great. For people that don't know what the 4 agreements are, can you share that with them?
I can't right now because they're not in front of me.
Thank you
But
for
they
your
are,
honesty. The 4 agreements, look them up, folks.
that's right.
I
Look
think
them
it's
up.
like
Yeah.
there's one that's like be true to your
Make
word.
no assumptions. Don't take things personally. Um, what else?
Be true to your
Oh,
word. Isn't that one of them?
be true to your word. Be true to your word. And there's one more out there. Maybe we should be offering like a special prize for the call-in person with the 4th assumption.
Somebody please get on the phone, call Janet and remind her what the 4th one is. Okay. My details will be listed below. Today on Horsepower Empowerment Through Connection, we will be attempting to remember the things that we thought we already knew. Note to
Yeah.
self, read my book
Mhm.
again.
Right. Right.
And so speaking of the 4 agreements and compassion and having an open mind and open heart, can you tell us more about the different populations that you serve?
Absolutely. So with the different disciplines that we have here, both mental health and occupational therapy, we serve people through the lifespan. The occupational therapy clientele tends to be primarily children between the ages of 3 and 11, I would say. Children with neurological impairments, and children, of course, that also have cognitive impairments and might be on the autism spectrum. We see traumatic brain injury, genetic disorders, but in the more general scope, children who need help moving their brains and bodies in a more coordinated way to be functional in their daily lives.
Excellent.
The mental health population, of course, runs the gamut from anxiety and depression to bipolar disorder. But what we do specialize in here at Hold Your Horses is trauma-informed therapy. And because of that, we have currently have a contract. Well, we've had it for the last, I believe, 8 years with Hennepin County, where we see young women who are victims of sex trafficking, who are sexually exploited youth. And because of the no wrong door policy, there's legislation here in the state of Minnesota to serve these individuals with therapy versus having them go through the criminal justice system, depending on how they come in. Interestingly enough, there is a crossover between individuals who have experienced trauma and people with neurological disorders. And we can get more into that later, but as an OT and helping some of the mental health clinicians in this work, I've been astounded to see how trauma affects the brain, how trauma affects people's ability to self-regulate their emotions. And trauma-informed therapy, the pillars of it are: 1, you want to create a safe environment. 2, you need to create connection. And 3, you need to create opportunities for emotional regulation or management of the emotions. So those are sort of the 3 pillars of trauma-informed therapy. And again, lots of overlap with our work as mental health clinicians and OTs, helping to create an environment where these 3 elements can happen. And in mental health, of course, people who've had trauma often have issues around relationship. They are not able to form healthy relationships, and that's where the connection piece comes in particular, connection to the horse. Having that opportunity to create a relationship with an animal, or at the very least begin to communicate and interact with another living being, is a pathway back into restoring understanding of healthy relationship and to develop connection, and then allow people to begin to get back into their lives and recover from trauma.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, if I remember correctly, you also see veterans?
We do not see veterans.
You don't see veterans?
We don't. We have had clients here who are veterans, but we don't have a veteran-focused program per se. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
People see that no judgment there. The people have different populations that they serve at all the different facilities.
Right, right. And, you know, I think it's great. There are programs that are designated towards veterans, sometimes because of that's their funding source, and sometimes because that's their expertise. And a lot of the programs that serve a veteran population are obviously going to be dealing with PTSD and disorders related to past trauma. And so a lot of these elements come into play. And that is why it's often important too, when you're working with a population that has had trauma, life trauma experiences, we really lean into our mental health clinicians, because it's not something you want to step into casually.
Yeah.
And you want to be very clear about boundaries, and you want to be very aware of setting people up for success and not inadvertently triggering them or setting people up to feel unsafe, where they would very understandably escalate. And our clinicians here, Molly DePreckle in particular, relates working to with the horse. She compares it to, what does she say? Drinking concentrated orange juice through a fire hose. And I don't even know if she's coined this phrase, but she says it all the time. And what that means to me is it's coming hard and fast. And working with animals, in particular, working with horses, again, getting back to that emotional theme, brings up that emotion. And you need to be ready to, and I hate to use this overused term of holding space, but you need to be able to give a safe space for that to play out, for people to feel that, not that they have to go through every detail of their past trauma, but that they can experience a difficult emotion and get to the other side of it. And that's really the opportunity we're creating in the therapy here. Not that you come here and tell us every last horrible detail of what happened to you, or that families go through the horrible trauma of their child's birth, surgery, whatever. You need a baseline information. But how wonderful that the horse provides this opportunity for movement, for experience and movement, and that you experience something positive, maybe something negative, maybe something difficult, maybe something challenging. And oh, you come to the other side of it. And there you are on the other side of it. And you say, hey, I got through that. And I have so many opportunities to do that with clients on a daily basis. And then to use those moments in discussion later and to help people reflect on that, so they then have learned experience of success with difficulty, with challenge, and with joy.
Mm-hmm.
That is limited in people's lives. Joy is not always abundant. In a family's life, a child with disability, their opportunity to come here and see their child on a horse, sitting up, laying on their tummy, reaching for a toy, vocalizing, doing something, a first time event, or maybe repeating a first time event, even better, right? That is great joy for a family. And you can't presume, again, making no assumptions that that's part of their day-to-day life, because very likely it's not.
What would be a couple of your favorite stories, success stories with some of your clients?
Oh gosh. You know, there's, things pop in my head about things that horses have done that have been really incredible, where even just something as simple as a weight shift on the horse's back end that enable a child to push up into seated position for the first time. They might be like sitting in laying down in a rear facing position with their hands, their head resting on the horse's back, and the horse weight shifts, and suddenly they push up into what I would call a prone prop position, and then come all the way up into seating. I mean, that has happened countless times, and I just think that's so beautiful, because it's really horse and child working together. And I've had clients, I had one little girl that when I first started seeing her, she couldn't even roll over independently. And through the period of time that I saw her, she was able to sit up independently on the horse and participate in position change, and then go into supported stand and eventually supported mobility with equipment. That's a beautiful trajectory.
Yeah.
She also, by the way, plays adapted hockey right now. So she's an awesome.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's so
yeah.
awesome.
And I had another young child that learned to walk while they were here. And of course, horse isn't all the only intervention. Many of these kids are also being seen, like they might see me for OT on horse. They might be seen by a PT in the clinic. It is, I'm often in communication with other clinicians that might be working with an individual. I have an adult that I've seen who has a traumatic brain injury. She had an assault trauma. She was homebound. Her case manager got her out to the farm. And over the time that I saw her, she got confident enough to start riding her bike again, and then had mobility back into the community, which she had been separated from since the time of her assault.
Yeah.
That was huge. That same person was also confident and brave enough to get on an airplane and go visit family that she hadn't seen for, I think, 5 years.
Wow.
Obviously, this was all pre-COVID. So those are a couple of really incredible stories. I have seen kids that are nonverbal all over the place. They come in, you put them on the horse, they have a moment where they are full of integrity and organization, and they can vocalize. And it might even be something as simple as the word go. But to bring that all together, to have that outcome, is really an incredible thing to witness. And then, of course, when they go home, if they say it again in the home environment, that's therapy. Then there's carryover, right? So we see amazing things in this setting, but I want to know what's happening outside of here, because then we've really made an impact on a life. In terms of some of our, clients, these young women we see from the county, who are, again, the victims of sex trafficking, or they've had unbelievable trauma in their lives, just showing up is a huge success. Many of them, they have the county arranges transportation for them, and it's like herding cats to find some of these kids. And then it can be an hour drive out to the farm from St. Paul, or from the city of Minneapolis. It might be 40 minutes in transportation. And they get in that vehicle and come out here every week. And that is a success every time they step out of that vehicle. And that is huge, takes incredible motivation and desire on their part to make that happen. And it's not me that's bringing them here. And it's not the other clinicians, as good as they are. It's the horses, and it's the farm. Yeah. And after seeing a number of them through telehealth. And then in July, we began to bring some of them out here. And we have sort of an outdoor waiting room with a swing. And we saw 4 clients in a row one of the first days we brought them out. And to put them in a swing, you know, like it's a porch swing, and they're looking out at the property and looking out at the horses, and the words that came out of these kids' mouths about how beautiful, how amazing, how restful, how peaceful. It was just incredible. And teenagers are not known for these kinds of words, right? It's generally other kinds of words that come out of their mouth, or no words that come out of their mouth.
Shut down.
Correct. So that's those kinds of things are really incredible to see. And I don't take any of that for granted. Blah, blah.
No, that's all beautiful. I really appreciate you sharing all those stories with us today, Janet. What's your favorite part of working with the horses? Just for you.
Oh, I think the horses, people always talk about going from 0 to 60. And what I love about the horses is that they can bring me from 60 to 0.
Call me right down.
That's what I need sometimes.
Me too, my friend. Me too.
Yeah. I think both being in their presence of a calm horse and the physical work at the farm and caring for them and using my body to do the work along with a wonderful team of people. But that also is very calming to my nervous system. OTs use heavy work a lot to help kids calm and get focused. Heavy work is lifting, pushing, pulling, running, jumping. And, you know, there's a lot of that at the farm. And it helps me to regulate. And I really appreciate that about this environment and the horses.
That's beautiful. It's good to know what you need.
Yeah.
So I have one more question for you as we're closing in on our time. Who inspires you?
Well, my clients, they really do. Every opportunity I have to interact with the people we serve is a gift. I am inspired by their journey. I'm inspired by very often their honesty and bravery. I'm inspired by their humor, and I'm inspired by their willingness to both listen to me carry on and encourage me to shut up and let the horse do the work. So that has been an incredible amount of learning for me. And I'm very inspired by my team here, that they too find meaning in the work, that they form connections with this place, which is very special. And these horses in this lifetime is incredibly inspiring to me, that they continue to show up for work every day.
It's beautiful. Thank you, Janet, so much for sharing all of those stories and that wonderful sentiment. And yeah, just your time. I appreciate everything that you do for your community.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure talking to you, and I hope to see you soon, waving from your RV as you drive past the farm.
You're very welcome, my friend. I am definitely excited to start my trip and get on the road and come visit everybody and hopefully get to film some of the activities that you have going on at your farm.
Great.
And help get the word out more about everything. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been fabulous once again. But goodbye and thank you. Until next time.